Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, from coast to coast. This is Walter Hartley speaking with a special bulletin from the WINRAD Broadcasting Service. The war in the Middle East has entered its 21st day, 3 weeks. An American F-35 has been hit by Iranian fire for the first time. Qatar's largest gas terminal will take 5 years to repair, and the President of the United States has invoked Pearl Harbor. We take you first to our Washington correspondent, Edward James Whitmore. Edward?
Thank you, Walter. Good evening, America. President Trump met today with Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi at the White House. And in defending his decision not to inform allies before the strikes began, the president referenced the 1941 bombing of Pearl Harbor as an example of the value of surprise in military operations. He made the remark while seated beside the Japanese Prime Minister. The Japanese government has not publicly responded. The remark drew immediate criticism from historians and diplomats. Pearl Harbor killed more than 2,400 Americans and drew the United States into the Second World War. To invoke it approvingly in the presence of the leader of the nation that carried out the attack as a model for American military strategy is without precedent in modern diplomacy. The president confirmed that he told Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to stop attacking Iranian oil and gas facilities. Netanyahu said Israel would comply. But sources familiar with the Israeli strike on South Pars, the world's largest gas field, have contradicted the president's claim that the United States knew nothing about it. The economic damage is now becoming clear. The CEO of QatarEnergy says the Iranian missile attack on Qatar's Ras Laffan terminal has knocked out 17% of its LNG export capacity, will take up to 5 years to repair, and represents an annual revenue loss of approximately $20 billion. That is a 9% hit to Qatar's entire gross domestic product. Force majeure is expected on contracts to Belgium, Italy, South Korea, and China. This is not a temporary disruption. This is structural damage to the global energy supply that will be felt for years. The UN World Food Program has warned that the war is driving significant increases in global food prices, as nearly 50% of global urea and sulfur exports and 20% of global LNG pass through the affected region. The fertilizer supply chain, which depends on Gulf exports, is now under direct threat, raising the specter of a food crisis echoing 2022. Oil remains above $115 a barrel. European gas has surged. In Zimbabwe, fuel has topped $2 per liter for the first time. In New Zealand, fuel stations are posting signs that read out of stock. The European Council has urgently called for a moratorium on strikes against energy and water facilities. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Washington might unsanction Iranian crude already being shipped to ease global prices. The administration that launched the war is now considering easing sanctions on the enemy's oil to manage the consequences. An American F-35 stealth fighter conducted an emergency landing Wednesday night after being struck by Iranian fire during a combat mission over Iran. This is the first time an American aircraft has been hit. The plane landed safely, but the incident raises questions about Iran's remaining air defenses, which the administration has repeatedly claimed are destroyed. Back to you, Walter.
Thank you, Edward. We go now to our foreign affairs correspondent, Theodore Charles Bennett. Theodore?
Thank you, Walter. Iran has warned it will show zero restraint if its energy facilities are attacked again. The IRGC issued specific warnings naming Gulf energy sites it would target. In the past 48 hours, Iran has hit Ras Laffan in Qatar, 2 refineries in Kuwait, and a Saudi Aramco refinery in Yanbu. Kuwait's Mina al-Ahmadi refinery was struck for a second consecutive day today, forcing a partial shutdown. Bahrain has now intercepted 139 missiles and 238 drones since the war began. Kuwait security services thwarted a Hezbollah-affiliated terror cell that was planning attacks on critical infrastructure, arresting 10 Kuwaiti citizens. Qatar's Prime Minister and Turkey's Foreign Minister held a joint news conference condemning the Ras Laffan attack as an act of sabotage and a dangerous escalation. Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister said the attacks on Gulf energy sites appeared to have been premeditated, pre-planned, and well thought out, and warned that the patience being exhibited is not unlimited. Iran has asked Germany to clarify the role of the Ramstein air base in the war. The implication is unmistakable. In Lebanon, the death toll has surpassed 1,000. Israel has ordered the population south of the Litani River to evacuate and announced it will destroy every bridge crossing the river. Photographs from Tyre show massive traffic jams as families flee. Hezbollah fired 49 waves of attacks against Israel in a single day this week. 2 civilians in their 70s were killed in Ramat Gan by a cluster warhead. 17 Israeli civilians have now been killed and more than 3,800 wounded. In Iran, the Israeli Air Force struck more than 200 targets in western and central Iran in the past day. including ballistic missile storage sites, drone facilities, air defense systems, and weapons production plants. Israeli officials say they are now targeting sites where the regime is believed to be attempting to conceal components of its nuclear program. The strikes continue in Tehran, Tabriz, and Shiraz. The Iranian Red Crescent reports more than 18,000 civilians wounded and tens of thousands of structures damaged since the war began. Israel struck 5 Iranian missile boats at Bandar Anzali on the Caspian Sea, the first strikes in that landlocked body of water bordered by Russia. The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog said this week that the war cannot entirely eliminate Iran's nuclear program, calling Iran a very big country with a vast program scattered across universities and laboratories, and saying the material will still be there when the fighting ends. And Walter, today is Nowruz, the Persian New Year. NPR has been receiving messages from inside Iran despite the internet blackout. One woman in Tehran wrote that at dusk, after the explosions, silence falls on the streets, and then the cawing of crows reminds her that the sound of life is louder than any other sound. A fashion designer wrote that the Basij are everywhere in her neighborhood, and there are teenage children with guns in her alley. And yet, during the Chaharshanbe Suri fire festival this week, Iranians defied authorities and celebrated in the streets. Security forces fired gunshots. One woman wrote that she bought firecrackers despite the ban. Because Nowruz does not stop for war. Spring does not stop for bombs. Back to you, Walter.
Thank you, Theodore. Thank you, Edward. 21 days, 3 weeks. An American stealth fighter hit. Qatar's gas terminal crippled for 5 years. Oil above $115. The president invokes Pearl Harbor. The Treasury Secretary considers unsanctioning the enemy's oil. The UN says the war cannot destroy Iran's nuclear program. 1,000 dead in Lebanon. And in Tehran, on the Persian New Year, a woman lights a firecracker in the dark. We do not know her name. We do not know if she is safe tonight. But we know she is there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, may be the most important thing we have reported in 21 days. Before we go, a sad conclusion to a story we reported last evening. James Gracie, the 20-year-old University of Alabama student who went missing in Barcelona, Spain, has been found dead. Police recovered his body Thursday evening in the waters of Port Olympic, near the nightclub where he was last seen. Barcelona police say everything points to an accident. His wallet had been found floating in the sea earlier in the day. Gracie was the eldest of 5 children from Elmhurst, Illinois. He served as chaplain of his fraternity. His high school in Chicago will hold a memorial mass on Monday. His family said they are heartbroken and struggling to come to terms with this unimaginable loss. James Gracie was 20 years old. His fraternity, Theta Chi, called him a resolute man and said his brothers in Barcelona searched tirelessly for him for days. His high school, St. Ignatius College Prep, said he embodied all the values they hoped for in their students. We ask you to keep his family in your prayers tonight. We shall continue to bring you developments as they occur. This has been a special bulletin from the WINRAD Broadcasting Service. I am Walter Hartley. Stay close to your radio. And now from the home front.
Hello, ladies. This is Dorothy Wilson. It is Friday night, and it is Lent, so tonight you get a Lenten supper that costs almost nothing. Pasta with garlic and oil. The Italians call it aglio e olio, and they have been making it for centuries. Boil a pound of spaghetti in salted water. While it cooks, slice 4 or 5 cloves of garlic as thin as you can. Heat 1/3 of a cup of olive oil in a big skillet over medium-low heat. Add the garlic and cook it slowly until it turns pale gold. Do not rush it. Do not let it burn. If you like a little heat, toss in a pinch of red pepper flakes. When the pasta is done, save a cup of the starchy cooking water before you drain it. Toss the hot pasta into the skillet with the garlic and oil. Add a splash of that cooking water and toss everything together until every strand is coated and glossy. Season with salt. Scatter fresh parsley over the top if you have it. Squeeze half a lemon over the whole thing if you have one. 5 ingredients, 15 minutes. Less than $3. The secret is the cooking water. That starchy water turns oil and garlic into something silky. Your grandmother knew this trick, even if she never called it aglio e olio. She just called it Friday supper. Good night and God bless.